passion. Oh, you miss my touching. You do. Show me something. Give me more than one thing. I need more than less than I do. Say you a good guy. Make me believe it. Don't wanna hear it. I wanna see it. See how. Rewind. When we rewind, it feels so nice. I
really loud, wasn't it? Hey, good morning, everybody. I just realized I haven't, let me reset this real quick because of the wonderful thing I does. Hi, it's Tuesday and welcome to the show. Interesting happenings yesterday when it came to the little debate between Steven Crowder and Ethan Klein. Ethan Klein kind of proved that he's basically a piece of shit. Excuse me, I had something to my throat. Let me drink some of my reparations coffee here. Anyway, we'll talk a little bit about that. Not too much because I'm not into the internet drama thing, although this was a weird situation. You know what I'm saying? And it was just one of those things where I'm like, what the hell is going on here? What a dick move. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll tell you in a minute. Also, we have a a Democratic senator showing I don't know if it's a hypocrisy or if he's just being a good Democrat. I don't know. It's just one of those things that I got a good chuckle out of, and I'm gonna just get chuckles out of it more because I got a video that I'm making about it that I hope you'll appreciate, and hopefully I'll get that one done by the end of the day. But anyway, that's, plus we just got our normal morning headlines and stuff. So that's what we're going to do today. And before we do that, I should probably play the intro. So Johnny, wake up. Thank you. Play the intro. He'll play the intro now. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live from the Lucky Dog studio in a hidden location somewhere in the upper Midwest of the United States of America. It's a brother making his own way, but with all the wrong opinions. Welcome to the Morning Night Live with your host, yours truly, PDawg Knight. Alrighty then, stop that music. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Night Live. I'm your host, Marty, also known as Dawg Knight on the internet, and welcome back to the Dawg Knight Channel. It is Tuesday, the 22nd of June, 2021. This is the 617th episode of the Morning Night Live, and I was going to name this stream Ethan Klein is a little biatch, but I didn't do that because it was more of his biatch move that I wanted to talk about. So if you're not familiar with the story, Ethan Klein and Steven Crowder have had a back and forth the last couple weeks about something Ethan Klein said on his show regarding the CDC and COVID and all like that. And he was saying to the effect, that you just trust the government. The government says to do this, you do it because this is the government said so. And Crowder thought that sounded a little weird. And so they've had this back and forth over weeks. Well, it turned out that they were going to have a debate, and it's a big hoop-de-doo that, Ethan Klein, who's, Susan's little pet toy, on YouTube, he has her ear whenever something happens. They've changed rules on YouTube because of things that Ethan Klein has suggested to Susan, and they've talked and whatever. Anyway, they were going to have this debate, right? This big roll up to the debate. And then yesterday, as Ethan Klein's getting ready to go on the debate, they were going to move in together. And, well, X-Bubba Hotep, I'm going to let you get ahead of me here. Thanks for the bullet, aka 357. I don't want to get ahead of you, so all I will say is, fuck Ethan for being a complete hypocrite pussy ass bitch. Well, that's kind of how I was thinking. Thank you, X-Bubba Hotep, for being the first sponsor of the show. And, oh shoot. What the hell's going on here? Let me fix this. Good God. I'm just not prepared today. I got home late, so I'm kind of a little bit behind again. X-Bubba Hotep.
You are the new Streamlabs Superstar sponsor of the day.
There you go. Anyway, thank you very much for sponsoring the show. If you want to sponsor the show, you can do that through Streamlabs and YouTube Super Chats and stuff like that. You know how it works. So anyway, so they're getting up this debate, and Ethan's on his channel and Steven's in his back room or whatever, however they do it. And Ethan's telling, well, because I'm not a very good debater, this and that, and this and that. And so, and then as one of his lackeys starts talking about Sam Cedar, and apparently some Politicon or something like that, Crowder backed out of a debate with Sam Cedar. And so everyone wants Steven Crowder to debate one of the boringest commentators on the internet. If whenever I try to watch Sam Cedar, I have to put it at like 1 3/4 speed or 2 times speed, because he talks so slow and he's so methodical, and he has this this air of total arrogance, and I'm just the smartest person on the internet. And he's a smart guy, but you know what, I don't know what the deal is, why Crowder doesn't want to debate him. Probably because he's an ass, and there are just some people you don't want to talk to, just like Sam Cedar refuses to talk to Dave Rubin or Jordan Peterson, or there's a number of people that Cedar refuses to talk to. And so it's just is what it is, don't care. But what happened is Ethan's supposed to go on and debate Steven Crowder, and he makes this big hubbub about this and how he's just I'm not that bright. And Steven said I'm just a layup for a debate. So I thought maybe I would just put someone else. And so he says Crowder comes on and he puts Sam Cedar up there in his place. And I'm just like, what a bitch move. It's like, look, you go and you're going to debate, and what they were debating was something that Ethan said, and Ethan has been talking about for the last couple weeks. And then he's been and he's been bad-mouthing Crowder, calling him all the isms and ists, racist and phobes and whatever, calling Steven all the names. And Steven just says, you know what, fine, let's talk about it. If you want to really have a conversation about what we're talking about in these, question and answer, different podcasts and videos or whatever, why don't we just talk to each other instead of at each other? Steven puts on Sam Cedar in his place. And it's like, I can understand why Crowder wouldn't want to do that in that situation. You're coming in, you said, okay, I want to talk to Ethan about these things. And all of a sudden someone else comes there and wants to talk about whatever he wants to talk about. And that's not what I came here for, right? So it's like, okay, let me give you an example. If this was like, let's say, who was the guy who fought? Was it Logan Paul who just fought with the Money Man? God, I can't even play. Floyd Mayweather Jr. Okay, let's say Floyd Mayweather Jr. is about to come do this exhibition, and he's gonna fight Logan Paul, right? He's gonna fight Logan Paul, okay? And you get to the fight, and Floyd Mayweather Jr. is right there, and Logan Paul standing in the ring, going, I'm not a professional boxer, and this is one of the greatest boxers of all time. So I have my stand-in here, Tyson Fury. Now you're going to exhibition against Tyson Fury. Okay, not that I'm saying that Sam Cedar's that much of a heavyweight, but they're just different champions or different whatever. That you would say, fuck you, I'm not doing this right now. This is not what I prepared for. You know what I'm saying? So, and also the other thing that Ethan Klein did in his big introduction, he was talking about, if people who would back out of a debate are cowards and are hypocrites and have no integrity and whatever. You know what's fascinating about that? You know who Ethan Klein was describing when he said that? Well, he was describing Ethan Klein, because that's what Ethan Klein just did. So everything he said bad about Crowder for not debating Sam Cedar in the past, now That's Ethan Klein now. Right? Anyway, thank you, Attack Alpaca, for sponsoring the show. And Attack Alpaca,
you are the new Streamlabs Superstar sponsor
of the day. Thank you, sir, with another bullet at 556, who says, so if an NFL team is playing the Houston Texans, who stink for anyone who doesn't know football, and the Texans start losing, can they pull in the Kansas City Chiefs to finish the game for them? I guess them's are the new rules for competition these days. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. You know, I mean, imagine, like I said, Mayweather's going to fight Logan Paul, and Logan Paul says, yeah, I'm not that great a fighter. How about we have Tyson Fury here in the ring with you? Totally different game, right? You got to figure out something else, you know, and put anyone there. Put Brock Lesnar or, you know, whoever you want to put in there, Overeem or somebody else that's a completely different game, you know? So anyway, what a crazy thing. Anyway. Oh, did Monkey start streaming now too? Whatever, that happens. If watch one or watch the other and watch the other one later. You know, here's the thing. I can't watch Steven Crowder. You know why? Because Crowder streams the same time I do. So I sometimes catch his replays or whatever. But I've been watching this stupid thing happen over the last few weeks, and it's just a bitch move. And it's funny because you look on Twitter, and for example, here's the they got this thing on Twitter, you know, political commentator Steven Crowder exits virtual debate with YouTuber Ethan Klein shortly after fellow commentator Sam Cedar unexpectedly joins the call. No. That's not what happened. Twitter is obviously they're in the leftist camp, right? And so they're kind of changing this to something that's not. No, Ethan Klein bailed and was going to have and had Sam Cedar in his place. It wasn't that, oh, well, Sam Cedar unexpectedly joined the call. No, that's not what it was. Ethan Klein brought in Sam Cedar to debate Crowder on what topic? You know, what were they going to talk about? On anything? It just didn't make any sense. So anyway, some of the tweets here, a lot of people are calling Crowder a coward, but accidentally publicly revealing that your dad used your pregnant wife for fake emergency excuse in order to get out of debate with someone you've been actively monitoring and avoiding is actually quite brave. I don't know what the hell that means. Tim Pool, left and right, are going to make their points defending Crowder or Sam Cedar. Who cares? I can say the one real takeaway is that Ethan Klein is a master of drama grifting. You think Ethan actually thought he could handle a political debate? It was obvious bait. Anthony Fontano, man, watching H3H Productions Crowder and Sam Cedar thing. The moment Sam appeared, Crowder shit himself and his little underpaid lackey jumped in to fill the air so nobody could get a word in edgewise. Then Crowder ran away. Really? Ran away from what? That's not what he was there for. He was there for something very specific. I changed my mind. Yeah, there you go. You know, it's not that Cedar showed up. Crowder, after Cedar showed up on the H3 debate, Cedar wasn't invited. Cedar wasn't supposed to be there. So why would you do that? Again, if you're Mayweather, you going to fight Brock Lesnar or Tyson Fury or somebody like that? No, you don't do that. And so, but boy, the left is so excited. Oh, he got Crowder. He burned him. Well, here's a good point. Steven Crowder and Ethan Klein agreed to debate. Klein got scared, so he snuck in his buddy to take his place. But somehow you think Crowder is the coward? Not sure it proved what you think. Yeah, it really didn't. It really didn't. So, Constantine with the pre-taped live show, the same way they caught the bad guy in Speed. Yeah, it's all big bullshit. Anyway, hey, thank you very much for sponsoring the show. And hey, guess what?
You are the new Streamlabs Superstar sponsor of the day.
Hagarama says with the 999, I would call that the Herman Cain donation. 999 plan. Thank you, sir. My analogy: you have a date with a chick, you get her to the house, and she says, "No, you are going out with my sister instead." Then she accused you of standing her up when you said no and say no and leave. Oh, perfectly good point. Perfectly good point. So thank you very much, Hig, and I appreciate you very much. It's so funny. So Crowder went as far as monitoring Sam Cedar's show so he could avoid a debate with him. The amount of fear you must have of someone to go to those lengths to avoid them is otherworldly. Why would he admit he was monitoring his show while also calling Sam Cedar a nobody? I don't know. And then they're saying that he melted down. Do you blame him? He wasn't there to debate Sam Cedar. He was there to debate or talk with Ethan Klein about something they had been going back and forth with for weeks. So anyway, in the world of Ethan Klein being a piece of crap, that's all I'm going to say about that. If you want to go hear more about the people cheering and booing for each one of those gentlemen, you can go on Twitter or any other social media because it's a hot topic today. And I am going to watch the replay Crowder show today because I am rightly curious what that show is going to be like today. And I might even watch H3H3, which I watch both of them. Let's see. Oh yeah, Crowder's on right now, and Monkey's talking about Carolyn Boroshenko. Let's see. By the way, good morning, everybody. I didn't get to say hi to everybody. Let's do that real quick before I move on, and then we might go see what's happening on a couple of these other shows right now. In the chat first today is Gunfox61, who gets the bell. Thank you, sir, for being here. Our fantastic administrator of the PDawgKnight Discord server. Appreciate you, sir. Good morning, Mike Savage. Blarg. Good morning, Jonathan Peterson. Why are you so angry? No. I'm not asking Jonathan Peterson why are you so angry. Jonathan Peterson. And why are you so angry? Different person. Happy Tuesday. Have a great show. Well, thank you very much. Good morning, Renee Mayette. Also, T-Ball, Deos, Attack Alpaca, Keenan, Lord Stanhope, Hig, 1966. Say hi to Sandy for me. Lord Stanhope's in the house. Also, did I say Renee Mayette? Yes, I did. Also, good morning to Tall Person. What's happening? Oh, you're at work? Well, don't break anything while you're listening. Good morning, Avocados Diablo, the Devil's Advocate. Also, always lost to someone. Nothing else, aka Alone, and Sands in the house, X Bubba Hotep, and Spambot 22, Subpar Genitalia. That name always cracks me up. Thanks for catching us live for once. I appreciate that. Also, good morning, Dana Wasteland, Sapphire Dragon. Let's see, who am I missing here? I could have sworn I saw Black Hebrew Israelite in the house. I'll keep scrolling. I'll find you if you're here. Also, good morning to Tyler F., the Asian Research Directorate. And I guess I was wrong. I thought I saw you here. Anyway, I'm glad you're all here. Hit the like button, share the stream, and do all that stuff that people ask you to do on every stream. So I hope you all have a cup of coffee or your favorite beverage of the day. I hope that works out for you. Also, okay, so let's get into, let's see what the other people are talking about as they're watching. So yes, Crowder is talking about the greatest self-owned. Okay, let me pause for just a second here. There we go. Fix that. Okay. So anyway, so let's see. Yeah, they're talking about, and Monkey's talking about Boroshenko. No one else is on right now, so I'm just checking that. Anyway. All right. Let's see. What else do I want to talk about? Oh, the other thing I wanted to talk about. Now, this is fascinating. Speaking of hypocrites, yesterday I'm on YouTube, or not YouTube, I'm on Twitter, right? And there's a senator in the Senate here. In fact, let me see if I gotta find him too. Because there was I had it bookmarked. Oh, I already have it here. Okay, here we go. So Sheldon Whitehouse, you familiar with him? He's a senator from Rhode Island. And yesterday on the Twitter machine, what is going on here? Oh, I'm gonna leave I'll leave that up, so that's in the bookmarks too. By the way, everything I read or every story I have or video or whatever, those will be in the description down below in a single link. Sheldon Whitehouse, a senator from Rhode Island. Apparently, there was I'm going to see if I can find the video here. Hang on. Where is it? I thought I had this handy. That's not good. Oh, that's in the bookmarks. Okay, let me find the video because you got to see the video first. Okay, so it's Sheldon Whitehouse Beach Club. Apparently, Sheldon Whitehouse is a member of a club. And so someone decided to come and ask him about his membership in this particular club. So let's take a look at this video real quick. It's very short. Here we go. Sheldon Whitehouse. This is senator from Rhode Island. Democrat, by the way.
Okay. A little close. Okay. Back in 2017, you had expressed concerns about the membership of the all-white Bailey's Beach Club, said that you hoped it would become more diverse. Now, your family...
Okay, this is listen closely because I don't know if you caught that. The all-white something Bailey's Beach Club.
2017, you had expressed concerns about the membership of the all-white Bailey's Beach Club, said that you hoped it would become more diverse. Now, your family's been members. Your wife is one of the largest shareholders. Has there been any traction in that? Are there any minority members of the club now?
I think the people who are running the place are still working on that, and I'm sorry it hasn't happened yet.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Did they just say that he's a member of an all-white club? Is that a beach club or something like that? Is it a yacht club? I don't know what it is. And he showed some concern in 2017 that they hadn't made any progress on that. Now, what's fascinating is they've been a member of this club since 2006. And here, hang on. You know what, guys? I got to pause for a second. I just realized that my dog's down here, and I'll be right back. Just a second. Oh, no. There we go. Hang on. Sorry about this, guys. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. It's a long tradition. It's a long tradition. I have to play this back because the whole thing was muted there. I apologize. Here we go.
Are there any minority members of the club now?
I think the people who are running the place are still working on that.
Oh, they're still working on it.
I'm sorry it hasn't happened yet.
Do you have concerns in 2021? I mean, obviously, it's been 4 years. You had remarks on the floor following the deaths of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd saying, hoping to root out systemic racism in the country. Your thoughts on an elite, all-white, wealthy club, again, in this day and age? Should these clubs continue to exist?
It's a long tradition in Rhode Island, and there are many of them. And I think we just need to work our way through the issues.
It's a long tradition? All white clubs in Rhode Island are a long tradition? Is that what he said? Did he mean to say that? I don't know if he meant to say that, but that's what he said. All white clubs. It's a long tradition in Rhode Island, and there are many of them. I think we just need to work our way through the issues. Now, it's funny because, well, his wife is one of the people running. Well, his wife, look, so here's what happened. And it may be in this article that I brought up for the Daily Caller too. They were big shareholders. They were like between him and his wife combined, they were top 3 shareholders in the club, right? And then in 2017, it was brought up that he's a member of this all-white club. So he decided to give up all his shares, right? Except he gave up all his shares to his wife. So anyway, it's a long tradition in Rhode Island. Democratic Rhode Island Senator Sheldon Whitehouse was confronted over the weekend for his decades-long membership to an all-white private beach club. The senator defended his family's membership to the Bailey's Beach Club in Newport after being approached by Go Local Providence reporter on Friday, calling it a long tradition in Rhode Island. Go Local Providence first raised the issue with Whitehouse back in 2017, to which the senator expressed his concerns about the lack of diversity in the club, and the reporter asked Whitehouse if there were any minority members today. As you saw his answer there, I think the people who are running the place are still working on that, and I'm sorry it hasn't happened yet, Whitehouse reported. Do you have concerns in 2021? You had remarks on the floor following. Well, we saw that. And so a long tradition, though, a long tradition in Rhode Island, and there are many of them. I think we just need to work through the issues. So Bailey's Beach Club has been described as the most exclusive club in America, with membership limited to a who's who Newport, Palm Beach, and New York wealth, according to Go Local Providence. Now, look, he's a Democrat, so you got to give him some slack because, you're not supposed to ask Democrats these questions. And in fact, you got to have some places to rub elbows with all your donors, right? Whitehouse's wife is one of the largest shareholders in the club, and the senator also promised to quit his membership at Bailey's as well as the all-male, all-white Bellevue Avenue Reading Room when he first ran for the Senate in 2006, according to Go Local Providence. The video of Whitehouse defending his membership to the club went viral on Twitter, with users pointing to his hypocrisy as an outspoken critic of systemic racism in America, and as someone who belongs to an all-white exclusive club. So there's plenty of those tweets there. They'll show a couple of them there. And, let me just, look, frankly, I don't care. But it's the hypocrisy, right? Because it's a Democrat. In fact, now, by the way, good morning, Foxby 2, Cracked, Jesse Leon, Michael Hatfield, King on Common Law, and Moonbase Radio. What's up? Now, what's fascinating about that is since this has happened, not a single person in the Congressional Black Caucus has said anything about Whitehouse's membership to an all-white club. Maybe they just think that it's his club called White House. I don't know. Both the National Association for Advancement of Colored People and the Congressional Black Caucus were radio silent Monday after the news broke that Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse defended his membership to an elite all-white beach club. Breitbart News reached out both to the NAACP and the Congressional Black Caucus for comment regarding the White House's extracurricular activities. Neither organization responded. Now, here's the thing, though. When organizations don't respond, they reached out to them Monday and they didn't respond by Tuesday. That doesn't mean anything to me, okay? And especially when those two organizations are very unlikely to respond to Breitbart about anything. But I do think it's humorous. I didn't see any tweets by them. I didn't see anything from the thing. I'm sure one of the two of them will make a statement eventually. But just a fascinating thing. I honestly don't care if there are people who want an all insert race club. I like freedom. It's funny how Democrats act holier than thou about it, but as soon as they're cornered, they backpedal. Yeah, that's the thing. I personally don't care what club he belongs to or what its membership is. But again, it's when Democrats do it, it's they kind of got to sweep it under the rug. So anyway, I have a solution for Sheldon Whitehouse, which hopefully I'll be putting out in a video later today. So we'll talk about that. You get to see that then. All right. Let's see. Let's talk a little bit. Well, while we're on our race issues, let's talk about critical race theory. Let's see here, because I had this article up the other day, and it was because it kind of leads into a couple more articles that I came to today. The 3 most common lies pro-CRT media is telling concerned parents and the public. And the reason I brought this up, like I said, I have a couple examples of these. One of them is, well, we'll get to it. So let's look at this article by Jordan Lancaster. So the Leggett media has been rushing to defend critical race theory after concerned parents, activists, and politicians lobbied to stop schools from teaching it to their children. In the course of defending it, however, several common lies to deceive the public have emerged. One is critical race theory isn't being taught in K through 12 schools. Pro-CRT media and progressive activists have first tried to claim that CRT, which teaches children that America is fundamentally racist and instructs them to view every interaction through the lens of race, is not being taught in K through 12 schools. MSNBC host Joy Reid has repeatedly claimed on her show that critical race theory has nothing to do with K through 12 education. John Favreau, the co-host of the liberal podcast Pod Save America, said that critical race theory is not actually being taught in schools and called it a coordinated, well-funded GOP midterm strategy. Writer Sarah Kendzior also claimed critical race theory isn't taught in schools and said that conservatives want to ban basic historical facts. Really now? And there she is. But critical race theory is not what's being taught and banned in schools. Basic historical facts, especially about topics like slavery, Jim Crow, genocides of Native Americans, is what the GOP want banned, and they call it critical race theory to make it sound intimidating. No. But anyway, time and time again, administrators admit and even celebrate teaching critical race theory in the classroom. Officials from the East Side Community School in Manhattan passed out literature asking parents to, quote, reflect on their whiteness, through a list of the 8 white identities. I don't know if you remember this piece of cancer here, the little 8 white identity chart here, and then there's actually a list here. We went through these a while back. White supremacist, white voyeurism, white privilege, white benefit, white confessional, white critical, white traitor, and white abolitionist. And, it's fascinating. I think most people just say, I'm just B and I'm trying to live my life as a clean living person. But anyway, a representative from the city's Department of Education told the outlet that the document in question was shared with the school by parents as part of an ongoing anti-racist work in the school community as one of the many resources the school utilizes. By the way, I will have those linked in the description down below. Schools have also followed through on one of the key principles of critical race theory, which claims that merit-based systems perpetuate inequity, which again, you know what? Human beings aren't equal. So I don't remember who it was, but someone said, maybe it was Thomas Sowell or somebody said, how can you expect people to have equal outcomes in a school, all the kids in the school have equal outcomes, when 2 kids raised in the same household by the same parents don't have equal outcomes? It's just not possible. Anyway, officials in Fairfax County, Virginia said that admission test for the prestigious Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology would be replaced by a holistic review process, the Washington Post reported. In New York City, the largest school system in the country, merit-based admission to middle schools was replaced by a lottery system to increase diversity. Schools have also started separating students by race. One Massachusetts public school district allegedly held a healing event after the Atlanta shooting and explicitly told white students that they could not participate. In May, a Virginia public school held an event for white staff only to critically and authentically examine our role and responsibility in the school's anti-racism efforts. So media personalities also claim and seem to contradict the idea that critical race theory is not being taught at all. That ban on critical race theory constitutes a ban on teaching history. Reid claimed that Republicans who are opposed to critical race theory would rather teach that slavery was actually a blessing and there's no racism. This is embarrassing.
While Juneteenth will now be commemorated nationwide, there's a catch. In some red states, it could soon be illegal to teach what the holiday is all about. That's because Republican state legislatures in a dozen states are now aiming to dictate how historical and modern racism in America are taught. That includes the state of Texas, where Juneteenth was first celebrated. Governor Abbott signed a law this week intended to ban critical race theory from being taught in public schools, even though it's not being taught in any K-12 curriculums anywhere, including in Texas. Juneteenth will now be commemorated
anywhere. CNN host Don Lemon said during his show Thursday that conservatives are trying to whitewash racism in America's past and trying to block teaching America's school kids about the history of racism in this country and the impact on our country. Really? Because I could have sworn that we have a national holiday, not Juneteenth, that's the new one. We had a national holiday. What's that guy's name that... how would they teach about that? Let's just, oh man, it's in February or January. I don't Martin something. They keep teaching about that. How would they teach about that guy if they would try not to teach about racism in our country? What's his name? Martin something. Luther King. That's yeah. Martin Luther King Day. That's a national holiday. Now, how would schools teach about that national holiday if they never talked about the history of racism in the country? So anyway, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki told reporters that teaching children critical race theory is teaching the youth and future leaders of the country about systemic racism and called it responsible. Political commentator Jared Yates Saxon called opposition to critical race theory an assault on education and history. Now, no one's even claiming that they want us to stop teaching history. There's a whole... It's almost as though the people talking about other people talking about it don't know what it is. It's just weird. Good morning, Thomas Cleaver. I see you there. NBC News also ran an article redefining critical race theory as the academic study of racism's pervasive impact. The story's oversimplified and misleading definitions of critical race theory seek to paint conservatives as eager to ban what the article calls lessons on systemic racism. NBC News called out anti-critical race theory groups for trying to disrupt lessons on race and gender and referred to critical race theory as equity programs that teach about racism and are put in place LGBTQ inclusive policies. Wait, what? What? Why? What? Anyway, none of the bans on critical race theory have been passed. However, the ban on teaching of history or preventing teachers from accurately representing none of the bans on critical race theory that have been passed, however, ban the teaching of history or prevent teachers from accurately representing what took place. Republican Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt banned the teaching of critical race theory in the state's public schools and universities. Specifically, the law prevents educators from teaching that one race or sex is inherently superior to another, or that someone is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive because of their race or sex. The Idaho bill banning critical race theory also prevents schools from teaching that any race is inherently superior to another and bans a school from teaching that anyone should be treated differently bans schools from teaching that anyone should be treated differently because of their race or sex. Other critical race theory bans are similar. None of them prevent the accurate and fair teaching of history. Sexton also another one that they like to say is conservatives don't know what critical race theory is. Oh, Sexton also repeated another common talking point, the claim that conservatives who oppose critical race theory don't know what it is. Sexton specifically claimed that even most GOP members have no idea what critical race theory is. Far-left media ran with the false claim that conservatives don't know how to define critical race theory. As Slate tweeted, conservatives want to cancel critical race theory, but they don't know what it is. Political commentator Tariq Nasheed, what's his name? Something Flex anyway, claimed on Twitter that no one can clearly define what critical race theory is. Along with accusing conservatives of wanting to ban a history class, Reed said that hysterics can't define what critical race theory is. But in fighting back against critical race theory, conservatives have repeatedly shown they know perfectly well what it is. Former President Donald Trump's Office of Management and Budget Director Russ Vought introduced a toolkit to help parents fight back against critical race theory that defines what it is, shows parents how to spot it, talks about some of the history behind the school of thought. After finding out what was being taught to their children, parents have created over 165 groups to fight against critical race theory, and commentators have risen to prominence calling out the curriculum. Quote, school systems are teaching material that affirms critical race theory's main ideas when they recommend teachers decolonize their curriculum by counting the races of different textbook authors. Jonathan Butcher, a Will Skillman Fellow in Education at the Heritage Foundation, told the Daily Caller News Foundation when asked about Washington, D.C. school equity materials. Erica Sanzi, the director of outreach for parents defending education, told the DCNF that parents know critical race theory when they see it play out in their children's classrooms. Quote, children are suddenly needed to lay out their race, their gender, their sexual orientation, their nation of origin, their religion, whether or not they identify with the sex they were born with, Sanzi said. And then they learn that all of these identities either fall into it to be a category of like an oppressor or oppressed. And then finally, bonus, opposition to critical race theory is funded by GOP dark money. Perhaps one of the most unfounded claims regarding critical race theory is opposition to it as a top-down GOP strategy that has nothing to do with grassroots organizing. New Yorker staff writer Elena Cobb appeared on Pod Save America to discuss how opposition to critical race theory is a coordinated, well-funded GOP midterm strategy, according to a tweet from the show's host, John Favreau. Oh, you mean like a vast right-wing conspiracy? Is that what you're saying? Another New York staff writer, Jane Mayer, said that the movement against critical race theory has all the red flags of a dark money AstroTurf campaign. In one wealthy Texas suburb, opponents of critical race theory beat out proponents by a 70-30 margin, according to Commentary Magazine. The Southwest Texas municipal elections saw 3 times the turnout they normally do, and opponents of critical race theory won 2 school board seats, 2 city council seats, and the mayorship. In fact, the NBC News article found that many of the 165 groups that opposed critical race theory were founded by parents who were upset with their children were being taught in school. So there you go. And that kind of leads me to a couple other articles here that I'm not going to go into as deeply, but in New York, this is the New York. You want to look at back at the New York schools, how they asked their parents to reflect on their whiteness. This New York Post article's here. Also, again, the 8 white identities, if you want to know what those are. I'm sure you've just been dying to read those again. Now, here's a short article. It's a little longer. I'm not going to read all of it, but it's about Derek Bell, who is one of the founders of critical race theory, who is a professor at New York University, taught at Harvard, Stanford, supports affirmative action, viewed America as irredeemably a racist nation. He passed away in 2011. The late Derek Albert Bell Jr. is considered the founder, or at least the godfather, of critical race theory, an academic discipline which maintains that society is divided along racial lines into white oppressors and black victims, similar to the way Marxism frames oppressor-victim dichotomy along class lines. Critical race theory contends that America is permanently racist to its core, and that consequently, the nation's legal structures are, by definition, racist and invalid. As Emory University professor Dorothy Brown puts it, critical race theory seeks to highlight the ways in which the law is not neutral and objective, but designed to support white supremacy and the subordination of people of color. A logical derivative of this premise, according to critical race theory, is that members of the oppressed racial groups are entitled, in fact, obligated to determine for themselves which laws and traditions have merit and are worth observing. Further, critical race theory holds that because racism is so deeply ingrained in the American character, classic liberal ideas such as meritocracy, equal opportunity, and colorblind justice are essentially nothing more than empty slogans that fail to properly combat or even to acknowledge the existence of the immense structural inequities that pervade American society and work against black people. Thus, according to critical race theorists, racial preferences favoring blacks in employment and higher education are not only permissible, but necessary. That is the anti-racist part, that it's necessary to elevate people because of the color of their skin. That sounds like, that sounds racist to me. Anyway, but necessary as a means of countering the permanent bigotry of white people who, as Bell puts it, seek to achieve a measure of social stability through their unspoken pact to keep blacks on the bottom. So it's, the fascinating thing about that whole theory too is that at least its original form is only about whites and blacks. Now, when he started up this theory, you didn't hear the prominence of Asian people in our American society as much, even though they were there, or other races, particularly some immigrant groups that tend to excel. And so again, this was strictly between whites and blacks. Okay, Bell was born in Pittsburgh in 1930, earned a bachelor's degree from Duquesne University at 52, a JD, or finished law school at University of Pittsburgh Law School, where he was the only black student on campus in 1957. So he's right around my parents' age. Bell began his legal career by taking a job in the civil rights divisions of the U.S. Department of Justice, but when his superiors there instructed him to give up his membership in the NAACP, saying that it posed a conflict of interest, Bell quit the department. He then worked as an attorney for the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, where he became a protege of Thurgood Marshall. Bell also taught briefly at the University of Southern California. Anyway, this is more of a study of Bell himself, but this first section here is a pretty good summary of what critical race theory is. And it's always been between whites and blacks as the oppressors and the oppressed. And you know what? Most people don't even have time to, do their dishes, whether they're worried about who's being oppressed and who's on the bottom. So it's interesting that, this theory. But anyway, in 1992, Bell published his most well-known book, Faces at the Bottom of the Well, The Permanence of Racism. A few of the book's most notable quotes on the subject of race include the following. Despite undeniable progress for many, no African Americans are insulated from the incidents of racial discrimination. Our careers, even our lives, are threatened because of our color. No. Another one, the racism that made slavery feasible is far from dead, and the civil rights gains so hard won are being steadily eroded. How? Let's see. And this is 1990, and this is a 1992 book. That's interesting too, because in 1992, the 80s were a time where a lot of progress was made in human relations. But this is the time when it's also the era of Reagan from 80 to, through Bush the first, right? I'm not really sure where he's coming from here, because this is the era that I grew up in, and I'm not sure. Anyway, I'll just read these quotes. Few whites are ready to actively promote civil rights for blacks. Huh. And in 92 he wrote this. I'm not sure where he's going there. Discrimination in the workplace is as vicious, if less obvious, than it was when employers posted signs, "No niggers need apply." In 92, I was getting my first jobs back then. It has begun to seem that blacks, particularly black men who lack at least 2 college degrees, are not hired in any position above the most menial. Really? That's fascinating because our veterinarian was a black man. The superintendent of the Omaha Public Schools was black. I'm trying to think of what I mean. Think about again. This is in the 90s. Herman Cain was the CEO of Godfathers at the time. I don't know, man. I don't know what he's saying here. He's must live in his earlier days or something. We rise and fall less as a result of our efforts than in response to the needs of white society that condemns all blacks to quasi-citizenship as surely as it segregated our parents. Again, as an 80s kid, I'm not sure where. Slavery is, as an example of what white America's done, a constant reminder of what white America might do. Really? To me, that seems like that we've completely rejected the idea of slavery in this country. Or we wouldn't be complaining about it happening in other countries. I don't buy it. Black people will never gain full equality in this country. African Americans must confront and conquer the otherwise deadening reality of our permanent subordinate status. Okay, what does that mean? Never gain full equality under the law? You don't think so? Again, tolerated in good times, despised when things go wrong. As people, we blacks are scapegoated and sacrificed as distraction or catalyst for compromise to facilitate resolution of political differences or relieve economic adversity. Tolerated in good times, despised when things go wrong. As people, we are scapegoated and sacrificed as distraction or catalyst for compromise to facilitate resolution. Okay, I don't know. The fact that, as victims, we suffer racist harm, but as people, we cannot share the responsibility for that harm may be the crucial component in a definition. So basically, he treats us as just helpless people. He thinks we're helpless and that we have no autonomy. We have no, Anyway, you can read the rest of this. This kind of gives you an idea where the critical race theories, where its provenance is. Derek Bell passed in 2011, but there are people pushing this, and I just don't buy it. That's me personally. I don't buy it. But anyway, on that note, where people are saying, "Oh, they're not teaching critical race theory in schools. They're not doing anything," right? Well, here's an article from the Fairfax County Times. Yes, Virginia, there is critical race theory in our schools, by Elizabeth Schultz. School districts across Virginia have been expending resources, directing staff time, and hiring consultants to address equity in curriculum delivery and for professional development of teachers and other employees. Fairfax and London County. Oh, we know all about London County. The 2 largest counties in the Commonwealth have set the lead in driving the changes in education and embracing critical race theory and anti-bias in their respective divisions. Critical race theory pushes the distorted concept that the most important thing about a person is their race, separating it above the person as an individual. It divides people by those who are minoritized and by those who are privileged and oppressors, advancing Marxist ideology that by default all interactions are derived from racism. Our history and nation is built on racism, and inequities are, yes, ascribed to racism. The color of one's skin defines whether they are racist, not their beliefs or actions. As a result, to undo the professed mantle of inherent racism in all aspects of society, CRT demands diversity, equity, and inclusion, addressing justice, and according to activists like Ibrahim X. Kendi, the Center for Anti-Racist Research Director at Boston University, requires people to become anti-racist. Efforts to rewrite school social studies curriculum with the goal of teaching from diverse perspectives began with Fairfax County teachers in 2018, joining with teachers from Albemarle, Charlottesville, and Virginia Beach City. It later became a statewide endeavor to create an anti-racist and culturally responsive curriculum, joined by teachers from Madison and Powhatan counties. The effort centered first on rewriting the 4th grade Virginia Studies curriculum. 4th grade. I thought it wasn't being taught in schools. What are you talking? 4th grade. That's a school time. That's grade school, right? Let's see. At that time, Fairfax County Public Schools social studies coordinator Colleen Eddy identified that work was intended to address the overrepresentation of white and Eurocentric history and the lack of diverse perspectives in education. The overhaul of the curriculum was done in collaboration with the framework created by Teaching Tolerance, an extension of the Southern Poverty Law Center. Oh, fantastic, because they're always perfect and everything they do is so accurate and whatever, which has since been remonikered to, quote, learning for justice, end quote. The objective was to examine materials, events, and institutions critically attending to power, position, and bias with the intended use in 3rd, 4th, 6th, 7th, and 11th grade classrooms. A perusal of the Learning for Justice professional development materials populated for teachers to deliver in K-12 classrooms includes articles like the one in which the teacher, I'll put a copy of that in the links, in which the teacher calls for educators to commit to making schools at all levels critical, active, conscious spaces that center people long denied space, voice, and freedom. Oh, good Lord. Long before Nicole Hannah-Jones and the New York Times Magazine Divisive and Erroneous 1619 Project, which the New York Times was later forced to quietly correct, the SPLC's teaching tolerance list of essential knowledge included direction for teaching 3rd through 5th graders that the United States was founded on protecting the interests of white Christian men who owned property, that the foundational growth of the U.S. economy was slavery, and that our founding documents were created to protect the institute of slavery. That's an interesting take, because the founding documents were written to kind of protect individual rights, and also now the formation of the states. Obviously, they made some compromises in order to get these southern states, which still had slavery, into the Union. But again, you got to remember, when the country's founded in 1776, we have the war, Constitution in 1789, and then within one generation, we end up abolishing slavery. So, does the formation of the United States, was that the preservation of slavery, or was it the mechanism by which we were able to abolish slavery within one generation? Or, well, I guess at that time generation, maybe 2 generations, because people didn't live as long. But you see what I'm saying? And within 70 years, we have another war, and we end up abolishing slavery through that same Constitution that they completed in the late 1700s. So anyway, the rest of this article just goes on and shows just all the different places where this critical race theory comes into the curriculum without teaching the actual critical race theory, but boy, it sneaks into the curriculum just about everywhere. And so, it is in fact being taught in schools, and they're just, they manipulate it, and they hide what they call it. They come up with beautiful catch names, but it's still being taught as, if your skin's this color, you are oppressed. If your skin's this color, you are an oppressor. You should be guilty for your original sin. So anyway, and then this is the Learning for Justice curriculum. Is this the one that the SPLC comes up with? No, this is learningforjustice.org. So if you're interested in reading this, how it works. So let me see. What does it say? This means that it is up to teachers and administrators to demand the full stop of the assault on black children. Black children in their hair, black children in their dress, black children in their bodies, black children in their well-being. I just caught that in the middle of this. I might have to go through this. The author is Dr. Shante R. Robinson, former high school history teacher and an assistant professor at the School of Social Service Administration at the University of Chicago. We're going to read that one later. Anyway, now, in Newsweek, a shocker. This is interesting. Listen to black parents furious about critical race theory. Someone named Barrington D. Martin II, founder of the United Alliance PAC, a former congressional candidate for the District of Georgia. In a nation of hundreds of millions of people, each with their own thoughts, beliefs, and ideas, there will be those ugly truths There will be those with ugly truths committing ugly deeds. Racial prejudice will, to a certain degree, never be truly eradicated. And yet, we have done an excellent job as a country in substantially minimizing those attitudes socially and even ensuring racial prejudice are eliminated at an institutional level within government. Although we are not perfect in regard to race and opinions about race, we are living in the best of times. Our nation is not recognizable as the place where segregation ruled throughout the South as recently as the 1960s. And I should know, as a black man who has lived his entire life in the South. And yet, at a time when Americans have never been more united about the evils of slavery, Democrats are working overtime to keep race ideology alive and well, because Democrats have always tried to divide people by race, just in different ways. Just saying. Most recently, this live support for race ideology comes in the form of critical race theory, which aims to shine a light on America's infamous history of racism. But the fact of the matter is, beyond what for some is a noble aim, critical race theory is big business. Yes, it is. Gosh, just ask Robin DiAngelo, who charges $30,000 for a lecture, or Ibrahim Kendi X, or whatever his name is, charged $40,000 for a 1-hour lecture at a school, in a school system. Anyway, and it's provided valuable political capital to Democrats wishing to keep black Americans believing in the omnipresence of racism. Through CRT, we're already seeing the next generation of children being indoctrinated though not through sensible reform or progressive policy. Lesson plans have been emerging which teach our children to see themselves through their skin tones and indoctrinating them to view history as well as American jurisprudence not as it is or was, but from a perspective that is centered strictly around their race. But it's not just Democrats. The GOP are also complicit because even though they don't support CRT, they're going about rejecting it in the wrong way, as they do with anything regarding race. Instead of making a clear case for why they are not racist, explaining how the smears are false, they seem to just ignore them or hurl their own insults back. What this means is that black Americans have no party that represents them. It is true that black Americans vote overwhelmingly for Democrats, over 90% for almost 60 years in every national election. But what do we have to show for it? Not only have we not seen this kind of economic policy that would truly help our community, but there's an ideological mismatch too. Many black Americans have conservative ideals. We believe in hard work, family, Christian values, and self-reliance. The primary reason for overwhelming support that black Americans give to the Democratic Party is that many black Americans believe that the GOP is the party of racists, and we believe that because people with a vested interest in our votes have made it their mission to make sure that we do. Race has always been the crown jewel used by Democrats to galvanize black support. The Democrats constantly and consistently remind black Americans that race is a barrier to their progress and that they are the answer to this problem. That's what they do. But the GOP never takes the time to defend itself from these attacks. Republicans don't spend time in our communities to show why they are the better political party to support. Therefore, the cycle of empty Democratic support continues and Black Americans suffer. Agreed. We need to get into Black communities. Critical race theory is the latest iteration of this vicious cycle. Worse, it adds an element of divisiveness. It sets up your kids for failure. Black children will learn to resent white children based on history viewed through a racial lens. And white children will learn to dislike who they are or be resentful, being told their skin color makes them inherently tyrannical. Last week, a concerned mother, Keisha King, demolished CRT during a Florida school board meeting, arguing that CRT is racist. Did we show this one the other day? Should we watch this? Okay, give me a 1 if you want to watch it again, or 2 if you do not. Well, here's a highlight of what she said. Telling my child or any child that they are in a permanent oppressed status in America because they're Black is racist. That's racist! And saying that white people are automatically above me, my children, or any child is racist as well, King righteously pointed out. This is not something that we can stand for in our country. She was joined by another angry parent this week in a video that went viral making similar points. We've seen this one too, the doctor, the guy who got 2 medical degrees. These Black parents are furious at what critical race theory are, who you should be listening to, not Democratic operatives and their representatives on the mainstream media. Both parties have failed Black Americans. It's time for Black Americans to realize that their skin color is not a barrier to their progress. More importantly, they must begin to force both Democrats as well as Republicans to earn their support. So, agreed. All right, we're gonna skip this. All right, let's move on. Talk a little bit about how Democrats are using Homeland Security into a political weapon. You know, how they keep talking about January 6th, right? The insurrection, right? And so I saw this article in the Federalist I found interesting because I've been talking about this for a while, that yes, they're just using this as a weapon. What is that noise? When a former FBI assistant director for counterintelligence says directly into the camera that fighting terror may now mean arresting members of Congress, the blood sport of politics has been taken to a new and more dangerous level. Speaking on MSNBC recently, Frank Figliuzzi opined to Chuck Todd that arresting low-level operatives is merely a speed bump, not a roadblock, in order to really tackle terrorism. And this time, domestically, you've got to attack and dismantle the command and control element of the terrorist group. And unfortunately, and I know this is painful to hear, that may mean people sitting in Congress right now, people in and around the former president. The command and control element of the terrorist group. That's Frank Figliuzzi. It is the stuff of banana republics when political opponents are locked up, and this was urged not by a fringe activist on an obscure YouTube channel, but by a former high-ranking U.S. intelligence official on the second most watched cable news network, with no gasp from the host. Is this what Homeland Security has become? Clearly, much has changed since 9/11 when President George W. Bush instituted a new office to secure the United States from terrorist threats of attacks that eventually became the Department of Homeland Security. Some people were saying that was a bad idea back then. Not sure who, but some were. I know that I probably didn't, but I know that I remember people saying, this is not a good idea. And I was like, real? I don't know. With a $40 billion budget, more than 240,000 employees, it is now a behemoth eclipsed in size only by the Departments of Defense and the Veterans Affairs. Although established with a noble purpose, there is a growing evidence that its focus has evolved in a direction those voting for its creation never imagined. Those with the secret clearances and shiny badges are increasingly scrutinizing our homeland, not for external attackers, but for our own people. In his first address to Congress, President Joe Biden, that's hard to say, cited, quote, white supremacist terrorism as the most lethal terrorist threat to the homeland today. The scripted message is being driven by other key Biden administration officials, including Attorney General Merrick Garland, who testified to the Senate Appropriations Committee that, quote, domestic violent extremists pose an elevated threat in 2021. And in the FBI's view, the top domestic violent extremists we face comes from racially and ethnically motivated violent extremists, specifically those who advocate for the superiority of the white race. I'm still not sure where all those people are. Haven't heard them. Certainly not any of those people from the insurrection that I know of. Joining him in that assessment was Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, the primary official charged with protecting our nation from terror. Neither official mentioned the race riots involving Black Lives Matter and Antifa last year that cost a record $2 billion in estimated insurance losses, nor did they voice concern over the incessant death to America chants from the Middle East, the region that produced the 9/11 attackers. No, suddenly, whatever Democrats consider white supremacy is our number one security threat. It would be easy to chalk this phony claim up to mere political rhetoric. After all, racial strife has long been the favorite tool of the Democratic Party, and their calculus has been consistently simple: create more anger to drive voters to the polls. But this isn't politics as usual. Their comments belie a much deeper and insidious intent, now evidenced by concrete policy actions. The White House just released its National Strategy for Countering Domestic Terrorism, a four-pillared approach to identifying and eliminating domestic violent extremism, DVE, threats. Despite its stated claim of protecting civil liberties, there are clear risks within. The press release notes that private sector partners will be used to identify early threats via credible non-governmental analysis. Google, Twitter, YouTube. Who are these partners? We don't know. Perhaps the Southern Poverty Law Center, armed with their list of hate groups that has routinely included well-known Christian organizations such as the Family Research Council and the American Family Association, for their stance on LGBTQ issues. Could Black Lives Matter be a partner in identifying white supremacists? Will Jack Dorsey or Mark Zuckerberg help out with the plan to address online terrorist recruitment through increased information sharing with the technology sector, offering up lists of radicals who lean the wrong way on Second Amendment rights, abortion, or the integrity of the 2020 election? How exactly will they foster digital literacy? And is that a euphemism for content control? Oh. Will Google help develop the new multilateral solutions to eliminating terrorist content online? And how will safeguarding the freedom of online expression be achieved? Inquiring minds want to know. The White House also instructs the Department of Defense to incorporate training for service members separating or retiring from the military to ensure they aren't susceptible to recruitment by violent extremist actors. Who are these violent groups? Again, they don't say. We have a hint, though, as white supremacists and anti-government or anti-authority violent extremists are cited as the two most lethal threats. Although the only white supremacists most Americans will ever see in action are the ones jumping off a bridge ahead of the Blues Brothers speeding car, there's no doubt which political group generally holds views critical of government. Conservatives beware. Veterans in particular. Press release also references the goal of stemming the flow of firearms to individuals intent on committing acts of domestic terrorism. You mean like any inner city street in the summertime? How will we know who is intending violence? Could it include these dangerous folks deemed anti-government? The ones pissed off about open borders, high taxes, crazy spending, and countless other issues. Opinions once covered under the First Amendment. better think twice before putting that "Don't Tread on Me" sticker on your truck. Also, the Department of Homeland Security previously announced a new Center for Prevention Programs and Partnerships, CP3, that will fit hand in glove with the Biden plan, with help from big tech and academics. It will conduct behavioral assessments on American citizens without their knowledge. Yay! Kind of like, when they used to do psychological evaluations of Donald Trump through MSNBC cameras. As unbelievably as surreal as it sounds, a pattern of political posts on social media monitored and reported by government contractors may soon put offenders under federal scrutiny for suspicious activities. As Harja Padaranga of the Brennan Center for Justice noted, quote, "A lot of these characteristics that we're talking about are shared by millions and millions of Americans. Social isolation, having a grievance, whatever that means, it could really capture broad swaths of the U.S. population. Monitoring the U.S. population, searching for those with grievances, it's hard to imagine a more open door for Pandora's box of civil rights violations. At the behest of partisan Democrats, the organization created to protect us all from another 9/11 will now turn its forces and energy on American citizens." Yay! The political inquisition has also been pushed by Democrats in Congress, who sought a January 6th commission in the style of a 9/11 commission to investigate what they termed an insurrection. Federal law enforcement has already pursued every man, woman, and perhaps a few dogs and cats that entered the Capitol that day, with more than 500 arrests thus far under the shock and awe approach that has left many confined to maximum security conditions, including some who simply entered the Capitol. But Democrats wish to craft the image of their political opponents as radical, more dangerous than the Islamic fundamentalists who hijacked 4 airplanes on 9/11. Senate Republicans were able to kill the bill, but not its ultimate goal. Democrats won't give up, and they won't spare any group from ideological scrutiny, not even the military or DHS. Surely none of this was contemplated by President Bush when he signed the legislation making the Department of Homeland Security a federal agency. How could he have known that our most powerful law enforcement and intelligence agencies would one day be employed for political purposes? Who would have guessed that the FBI, CIA, and DNI chiefs empowered to protect our nation would use those powers to attempt to remove a duly elected president with an elaborate hoax? We had warnings. In 2013, former CIA employee and National Security Agency subcontractor Edward Snowden exposed the NSA's abuse of powers entrusted to it under the Patriot Act. The agency's mass surveillance of private citizens and companies was stunning. Was it all for national security? Not even close. The agents were found spying on their love interests, a tactic affectionately called love-int. They also tracked the personal and sexual activities of people they called radicalizers to discredit them. Homeland Security has quickly become a system that can neither be trusted to enforce nor obey the law, nor be penalized for its own malfeasance. Its apparently unfireable leaders carry on with impunity, despite perjuring themselves before Congress, falsifying documents for FISA court, unmasking communications without clear justification, and illegally spying on American citizens without a warrant. Perfect knowledge and unrestrained power have made a dangerous cocktail. So, all right, we're going to finish up with a couple quickies here. Now, apparently someone says the Texas State Guard is going woke too. And where is this? There's a, here it is right here. How long is this? Let me see if I might have to skip this.
Has the Texas State Guard gone woke?
All right, I'm going to leave this. I'm going to leave this here, but here's a couple of things that they asked 5 specific questions about training in the Texas Guard. Did the training when they were talking about During our monthly drill, we were ordered into an auditorium at Camp Marbury and indoctrinated with themes of cultural Marxism and critical race theory that characterize the same DoD extremism tracing that has been forced upon all federal troops since the January 6th rally for President Trump in Washington, D.C. Unlike the federal training, our training occurred with a room full of Texas general officers, including Major General Robert Bodish, the commanding general of the Texas State Guard. Texas is somewhat unique in that the Texas military forces is made up of no less than 3 branches: the Army National Guard, the Air National Guard, and the Texas State Guard. Reporting structure is complex, but the bottom line is the State Guard only reports to the governor of Texas and cannot be federalized. The Department of Defense is not our reporting structure, and Washington, D.C. has no role in command of state military forces. During the question and answer dialogue, we learned that although it wasn't clear who had the list of extremist organizations, that NRA was known to be on the list. Troops were reminded that membership in the NRA would not necessarily be extreme, but fundraising and recruiting members certainly would be. Specific examples were given of extremists who had been rooted out of the military in the past, and all of the examples presented to the class were of white, presumably right-wing extremists who had done something overtly illegal. Did they now? So they asked them a bunch of questions. Did the training occur on the date Hopper states? Okay, hang on a second. There was one here that Oh, okay. This was talking about their training, their CRT training. But anyway, interesting article. You can check that out. Cory Booker. I thought Cory Booker disappeared. Has anyone heard about Cory Booker lately? I know I haven't. Anyway, he sent out a tweet Saturday saying that America still has a long way to go to reckon with and overcome the dark legacy of slavery. Here's his tweet. Our nation still has a long way to go to reckon with and overcome the dark legacy of slavery and the violence and injustice that has persisted. Because the truth we know is that so many of the challenges of our ancestors face are the ones we still must confront. Well, thank you, Senator Booker, for letting us know that. I don't know. More in some Fauci news. Now he's saying that the lab leak theory is a very, 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 very remote possibility. White House medical advisor Dr. Anthony Fauci on Monday downplayed the likelihood that Chinese coronavirus originated in the Wuhan lab, dismissing it as a very, 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 very remote possibility. You know how this just keeps going back and forth, because wasn't it just yesterday we got the article about how they had all the components in 2017, all the components to make the current virus in 2017? I don't know. Anyway, he also claims, now I'm not going to read this article, but you can read it yourself. He also claims that in the past, he's back on this mask thing, right? And now he's saying that he never said that you shouldn't wear a mask. Okay, that's in one interview, and then another interview said, well, no, I never said that we didn't have you wear masks because of we didn't have enough PPE. He's still changing his mind on the masks. And what he said in the past, what he said in the past was recorded, and you can see him saying it. So now that he's saying a very, 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 very remote possibility of the lab leak theory, I think he doth protest too much. I think he knows that his funding of certain things that funded the lab in the city of named by the city of the country of origin that shall not be named. I think he's such a scumbag. So I really think if you want an honest investigation, Dr. Fauci should be excluded because conflict of interest. That's Dr. Rand Paul saying that. Speaking to the New York Times podcast Sway, the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases director said the lab leak theory has become overtly political. Yeah, you know why? Because it's political to mention it by some politicians. And some don't want to hear it. The fact is, I just gave you the reasons for speaking with and dealing with knowledgeable virologists and evolutionary biologists for years and years and years, Fauci said. I do keep an open mind that it's a possibility. Do you now? So that's the reason why, well, this person says it's a possibility, and that person says there's a possibility, almost in the context that I'm disagreeing with them. I'm not. I'm saying it is a possibility. I think it's a very, 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 very remote possibility, but it's a possibility. Well, thank you, Dr. Fauci. How about we find out? And he also said he slipped and said that Zuckerberg offered him resources and money in some redacted emails. Dr. Fauci revealed that Mark Zuckerberg offered him redacted portions of his recently released emails. The conversation, he admitted, included offers of resources and money from the Facebook founder, who at the time was plowing cash into interfering with the 2020 election on behalf of Democrats. Yes, we know. Oh, I fight for your rights, Trideos and Keeverdam and Wikipedia snippet. Or Dr. Keeve, excuse me, Doctor. And Mass Creations broadcast. Nice to have you here. So he divulged further information as pressure ramps up over his recently published emails and a series of stunningly poor, hypocritical political decisions he appears to have taken over the course of the pandemic. Fauci's research and that of his colleagues have been repeatedly linked to Chinese Communist Party entities, including the hostile nation's military. Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg's activities circle the same networks with the billionaire tech CEO recently funneling money into long-term Fauci colleague Dr. Ralph Baric. Following the National Post's reporting of these matters, the Facebook-funded fact-checker Lead Stories began to censor National Post content on social media. Oh, imagine that! So they're censoring this particular outlet because they might be saying things that we don't want to hear you say. So here it is. Thousands of your emails dating from January to June 2020 have recently been released by BuzzFeed and the Washington Post. That's giving your critics, particularly on the right, well, does it matter if they're on the right, or does it matter what they're saying is true or not? More material to work with. Your redacting of Mark Zuckerberg have added fuel to the fire. Representatives Jim Jordan and James Comer and Senator Marsha Blackburn have alleged that you worked with Facebook to censor speech. And you're just laughing at me, right? She asked while Fauci laughs before asserting, no, the reason I'm laughing, Kara, because every single one of those emails can be explained in a way that is perfectly normal, perfectly innocent, and completely above board. What does Fauci regard as being above board? Precisely the offer of private funding for him and his organization, despite being a government employee. In fact, the highest paid government employee in the country. I think, did he make more than the president? I don't know. Anyway, in any other world, this would be constituted as a form of bribe towards a government official. Zuckerberg has form in this area, as the National Post revealed around the 2020 election. He's getting funding from, or at least they offered funding from Zuckerberg. Where is it here? Set on March 15, 2020, Zuckerberg's email asked Fauci for assistance with building a coronavirus information hub on Facebook. I'll write to or call Mark and tell him that I am interested in doing this, Fauci informs his staff. Anyway, there's a whole bunch on there. You guys can check that out later. I'm going to skip the last two because I'm out of time, but the judge in Florida cruise line lawsuit reminds us the CDC is not Congress. The Tampa federal judge pushed back on the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention prevents his COVID panic power grab on Friday, granting the state of Florida's request for a preliminary injunction against the agency in a lawsuit challenging the CDC's mandate that cruise lines require passengers to be vaccinated. Judge says never has the CDC implemented measures as extensive, disabling, and as exclusive as those under review in this action. The CDC has attempted to force cruise lines to show proof of vaccination for at least 95% of passengers. Republican Governor Ron DeSantis, who issued the executive order, later signed legislation banning the use of vaccine passports in Florida. So anyway, the judge sided with the state of Florida, and it was the state of Florida that actually did this, not the cruise lines. And the judge agreed with them. I'm not sure if they're going to appeal, but good for that judge. Also here, let's see. Oh, this is just an article on how American scientists have helped cover up a lab leak for communists before, this time in the Soviet Union. This was back in 1979 after anthrax material was leaked from a lab. The public didn't know the truth about what happened until 10 years later. Soviets once denied a deadly anthrax lab leak. The scientists backed the story. The accident and subsequent cover-up have renewed relevance as scientists search for the origins of COVID-19. So it's not the first time American scientists have said, you know what, we need to cover up. We need to cover this up. We can't let people know that this happened. The National Institute of Health inadvertently exposes data on individual employees' vaccination statuses online. Oh! I don't know. Does HIPAA apply to the National Institute of Health? I don't know. A high-level medical research unit within the National Institute of Health exposed a list of its employees and their self-reported vaccination statuses online, according to materials obtained by the Daily Wire. Dr. Cully would like to get an idea of how many GMB MOS have been fully vaccinated. Apparently, they're saying 86% of CR staff are vaccinated, but I think that is an underestimate. Just to note, we are now allowed to ask these questions if they don't mind participating in the poll. That would be great. Program specialist Tommy Cole wrote an email to the genitourinary malignancies branch and the Centers for Cancer Research at the National Institute of Health. The email included a link to a public website on the survey platform Doodle, interviewed by the Daily Wire, that listed the names of more than 75 National Institute of Health employees. They clicked on a check mark next to their name to indicate whether they had been vaccinated or not, and all the names and results were visible to others. So they didn't hide it. So I guess that's up to those people. If they're going to take this survey, they got to realize that it's open to the public. And finally, I was going to get to this, but I may have to get this another time. But there's a story in the Wall Street Journal about about the abolitionist Cassius Clay. And I'm not talking about Cassius Clay, who became Muhammad Ali, but Cassius Clay, the abolitionist, whom Muhammad Ali was named after at birth. And then he changed his name to Muhammad Ali, obviously. But I don't have time for this one today, unfortunately. So we're going to skip it for another time. And on that note, before you do anything, please click that button with the thumb on it. The one that's pointing to the sky, not the one that's pointing to the bottom of your screen. And if you would be so kind, share the stream out and put a comment in the comment section if you're watching on replay. And if you're not subscribed, you can do that too. Click the bell. Make sure you got notifications so that you get them when I send them out. Oh, obviously I didn't send out the Twitter notification today either. I didn't have time. I was running out of time today. Anyway, let's see. Let me real quick. Did anyone do that? Did anyone tweet this out today? Nah, not really. Oh well, that's okay. So anyway, if you haven't shared the stream, share the stream. Put it back on. Put it out there on social media, and maybe someone will watch it later. Anyway, it's time for me to go, people. Thanks for being here. Thanks for our sponsors today, Expo Hotep, Attack Alpaca, and Hig. Down in Florida. Thank you all for sponsoring the show, and thanks to everyone who participates in the chat and who the future comments in the comment section. So it's time for me to go. Thanks, people. My name is Dawg Knight, and I'm out of here. Bye-bye. Hey, this is Dawg Knight, and thanks for watching today on the Dawg Knight Channel. If you have an observation or remark you'd like to make about this video or my channel, I absolutely welcome you to write it in the comment section down below. I really look forward to hearing from you. And before you go, if you like what you saw but you're not already subscribed, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and definitely click that bell that pops up afterwards so you'll be notified when I post new videos or when we go live. I broadcast my live show, The Morning Night Live, Monday through Friday at 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. A special thank you to all the supporters of this channel who share our videos on social media and who make donations through Streamlabs, YouTube, Venmo, and Cashapp, which are all linked in the description down below. Thanks again, and until next time, I'm PDawgKnight, and I'm out of here.